Hi, Peter Charles here, Folk to Fly Fly Fishing, and today let's talk about using these factory leaders on light lines like 2/8 and 3/8 and that sort of thing, and what the problems are, and perhaps we shouldn't be tying our own leaders for this job. And I want to illustrate the problem here. I have two lines. They're both 3/8, and the yellow one is an airflow 3/8, and the orange one is a local manufacturer called Northern Sports, and it's a polyvinyl chloride line. And look at the difference in the tip diameter. It's considerable. I mean, the airflow 3/8 is about the same as a 4/8 in tip thickness. And the impact of that comes when we use these factory leaders. And if we look at this diameter of the factory leader butt section compared to the tip of the thin 3/8, you can see that the mono is almost the same diameter as the tip thickness of this 3/8 line. So this 3/8 line here is not going to have the turnover force because it's so thin. And then when you put 9 foot of this factory leader with this thick butt section, you're likely to get poor turnover, especially if you're dealing with a bit of a breeze and you're trying to cast into the wind. Now, let's think of where we use 2/8 and 3/8. They're in these little high gradient streams, bouldery, pocket water, that sort of thing. We're not often using them in wide open rivers. They're usually in more confined spaces. So using a 9-foot leader doesn't make a whole lot of sense anyway. And if you took one of these leaders and sliced it down, cut off 2 feet off the back end, you got a 7-foot leader, probably work okay. Especially on this airflow line, which has a thick section, front tip section. That'll transfer weight over turnover force quite well. So if you wanted to make your own, if you're having problems with turnover, especially if you're using a 2/8, and you're casting, say a size 14 dry, and it's just not turning over for you very well, it could be that your leader is too long and the butt section is too thick. So if I was going to create a 7-foot leader for pocket water fishing, I'd be looking at you starting with 0x, which is around a 15-pound test, and then going down to 2x, 4x, and probably 6x tippet. My proportions would be usually 60% butt followed by 20-20, and then I'd add the tippet. Or I would look at 70-15-15, then add tippet. Tapered section with the butt is 5 foot long, your tippet is 2 foot long, giving you a 7-foot leader. That'll give you reasonable turnover, and the 0x isn't thick enough to really bother the turnover of that 3/8. In other words, you're not going to have the leader, failing to transfer the energy to the fly because it's too thick and too long. So you're able to transfer the energy to the dry fly because you've kept your leader short and not too thick. So 2 choices. As I say, you can cut one of these and turn it into a 7-footer by cutting it off the back end, not the front. Or you can make your own and follow the formula of a 5-foot section, which could be 60-20-20 or 70-15-15, and then adding a couple of feet for the tippet, and you're good to go. Either way, you're going to have a functional leader. And the only thing I would suggest is pay attention to the tip sections of your line, because if it's super thin like this orange one, you may find that the factory leader is not a good solution and you're better off making your own. So it's just something to think about when you're using 2/8 and 3/8, that we just can't run out and buy a leader and throw it on there and go fishing, because you're likely to run into problems. Plus, it's usually too long for the conditions we're fishing anyway. So remember, 7-foot leader, keep it light, and if you've got a skinny front end on your fly line, make your own with a 0x butt section and go from there. So give that a try if you're having any turnover problems with your light lines. Cheers.
Fish. Good one.